All right, first rule of the channel, we did not talk about this channel. Second rule of the channel, this is not legal advice. So this is going to be after waivers for week 13 of fantasy football. This is going to be the proactive waiver wire show. This week is a little bit of a strange week because of your Thanksgiving right now. So you are looking at 3 Thursday night games and 1 Friday night game. So, or 1 Friday afternoon game. What I would talk about in this is some of the roster juggling that should be going on, like proactively, is going to be based off of all the potential injury reports. And at this point in the season, especially like this show probably will be shorter today, just because like we kind of know who all the what all the usages are and who all the backups are, and we're kind of just looking for like anomalies. Or the guys that we should be picking up based off of like preliminary injury reports or potential injury reports come Wednesday afternoon. And since there's 4 games that we're only going to get like one injury report, and then we're going to be waiting for active inactives on your Thursdays. A lot of guys that like should be held onto for a day, pretty much like waivers clear. I'm going to be picking those guys up. I'm holding on to them for a day. If the injury reports come out in the right direction slash the right inactives actives happens, I'm going to be tossing those guys away. So like probably very heavy week when it comes to the waiver wire in a lot of your more competitive leagues, based off of trying to just guess right, or make sure that somebody else does not guess right. The block is going to be like really important in this one, and I bring that up because with your playoffs coming, certain guys are going to be competing for different things. Like you're getting to the point in some of your leagues where points may end up being more valuable than actual wins are at this point. And again, like know how you get into your playoffs, know the scenario. I can get not lucky, but I can get the right scenario this week in my main money league where if I get a win and the guy who's going to end up being the number 1 seed beats the number 3 seed. That's right now. Then like I clinched the number 2 seed, which is a bye, and since I can't catch the number 1 guy in points, because he's just running away with the league at this point, um, I don't have anything to play for week 14. So making sure that the third place guy does not have the right guys in his lineup is just as important to me, even though I'm not going to play him, because I want to make his week as difficult as possible because I need him to lose, and then I have to take care of business on my own. So my bench can be set up a little bit different in that point. And again, if you need points and you're just shooting for upside at this point, because again, like just winning is not going to matter if you're not scoring like 150 points on top of that. Like those upside guys are going to be valuable, and then you're looking at like week 14. If you're in the right type of position where you have those bye weeks that they're going to be coming up for you, and you can start like getting ready to like juggle your defenses and stuff like that. Like that's also the stuff that you're going to be looking on. And remember, like cuffs become like very, very important at this point. Like those guys should not be on your roster, especially if you're in positions like that. You can, know with week 14 ahead of time that you don't need to be rolling certain guys, and you can start like stashing those cuffs on the bottom of your bench, because like your bench configuration for playoffs should be basically like defenses and cuffs at this point. Cause like, once those bye weeks get out of the way, week 14, like, what your lineups are. And at that point, like you only need like 1 or 2 guys to go like, well, if this guy goes down, like who do I plug in? And if you're in good enough position to be starting to screw around with stuff like that, it's because like you have like league winners in your lineup, and like you don't really need to be screwing around with some of those other guys. Now remember, this is why I have like your good old Emmanuel Wilson pulled up here, like what's a win worth to you and everybody else. And like a guy in my main money league that's like right on the bubble, he dropped like the rest of his fab to make sure that he could pick up Emmanuel Wilson, and that's after I pulled my fab bid, because it did look like Josh Jacobs was either trending towards not missing any significant time, or B, actually playing this week, because it did go down like to a game time decision when it came to Josh Jacobs. And man, can you predict 25.5 points? Like probably you could have, and he needed those wins. That's actually the guy that needs to get knocked out for me. It's like, I think the same guy that rolled that guy. So he jumped from like on the bubble to third, because he dropped the rest of his fab, because what's a win worth to him? Like everything that he had left to be able to make sure that he was going to be in that position this week. So those are the things that you got to be looking at when it comes to your strategy of how to configure your bench for playoffs coming down the line. Like, do you need points? Are you in the position that you can start like knowing what are your backup plans for your playoffs? Know who has value in your league on your wire. not just to you, but everybody else, and why they have value. Another quick story time is in my less competitive high school league, because that's a really weird league. It's somewhat fun from a strategy perspective, because like half the guys are tacos, and the other half of the league, this is like they're really into fantasy football, and this is not their primary league. And some of those tacos can make it very competitive, because like they'll hold like 4 quarterbacks, and then when you get to that point where like you need a quarterback, you're looking at like famous Jameis and Bryce Young. And I picked wrong this week in that league, but like, that's just because I have not been doing my due diligence when it comes down to like knowing that there were no quarterbacks on the wire, and doing the meta of like I'm only going to hold one quarterback, and that was like Jackson Dart at this point. That's just how it went in that league overall. So like know who has value in your league, just to you and everybody else. All right, week 14 buys. You're looking at, this is a significant week for a lot of guys that I think are really fantasy relevant, especially if you're in those type of leagues that you're getting your league winners. New England, they're going to be on bye. You're looking at the Giants are going to be on the bye, and the 49ers are going to be on bye. Also, the Panthers are kind of a train wreck. There's a lot of guys on those 4 teams I should know, because like both my leagues, my entire bench is going to be like guys on bye week, because I'm rolling with a lot of those guys in my lineup. All right. And then defense is also a little bit of a weird league. I don't know who's going to be available in your league at this point. Seattle should be a set and forget defense. They shouldn't be available. You could be rolling them against the Falcons if they are available right now. You're also going to be looking at, like, if you want to get cute, you could go Titans against the Browns, or Browns against the Titans at this point. Redskins, if you want to get cute, going over against JJ McCarthy, and the Vikings would be like an idea. The Jets going up against the Dolphins, you could go either way on that one at this point. And then Buccaneers going against the Saints if you really want to get a little bit of fun. And then Denver should be a set and forget defense. They shouldn't be available if they are going over against the Raiders. Pick those guys up. They're one of those ones, I think, like Denver, Houston, and Philadelphia have like really nice playoff schedules that are going to be available out there right now. And then the Rams going up against the Cardinals is another one that, like, they're a set and forget defense. Again, Texans may have like the most elite defense or in fantasy football right now. In real life football, is not a real football channel. And then Eagles and Chargers. Again, the Eagles may have one of those defense. Chargers offensive lines depleted, and they have not looked particularly good. Very inconsistent on the season. All right. Going team by team should be relatively quick, just looking for those anomalies. Bryce Purdy goes out there, throws 3 interceptions. That's what he does, a little bit of gunslinger sometimes. You're looking at like 31 combined opportunities for Christian McCaffrey, and then 9 opportunities on top of it when it comes to B-Rob. Usage remains consistent. Kittle is going to be the number 1, it looks like, for the offense, so he's going to hit like unicorn status at this point. And then Jennings was at 90% snaps, and then Ricky Pearsall was at 76. And I bring this up, like, if you're going to be chasing certain offenses, remember, CMC is probably the opportunity funnel attached to an okay offense. That's what you generally want from a fantasy football perspective. And then can you get a little bit deeper, like this week 17, week 16 matchups for the 49ers? You could probably get even to the point where, like, Slick Rick, if he does something, like, I probably would be dropping him in most of my leagues at this point. I just don't know. If you're going to be holding on to him, you have to be in a particular situation, to know that there's a possibility that you're going to be going. How many wide receivers are going to be available in your league if you're going to be rolling him, like, say, playoffs or week 14, something like that, and he's on bye. So, like, again, like, know all that stuff. All right. Moving on to the Bears right here. So running backs, real quick, 45% when it came to DeAndre Swift. 1 red zone opportunity, 5 red zone opportunities went to Monongahela on his 54% snaps. I moved my mic around and sit up in this game, and I did go look at the game log, and it was all over the place. I thought it was going to be the fumble. It was not the fumble. Monongahela and Swift were just working in and out, but again, like, the red zone opportunity at this point, like, all 5 went to Monongahela at this point. Like, probably you're looking at touchdown dependent. The potential spike week is still going to be Swift. If he can score outside of, like, say, like the 10-yard line, something like that, or he can rip the home run off, it's going to be Swift. And then if you just want, like, the possibility of getting your 40-degree day, it's probably going to be Monongahela. I don't know if you're going to get full bell cow out of Monongahela if you're worried about that. All right, DJ Moore, he did score 2 touchdowns on 2 red zone opportunities in this one. And then Burden, did stay relatively consistent, 51% snaps, if you're wondering about that. Tight ends, Loveland was at 65% snaps. Cole Kmet was at 63% snaps. Loveland did score on his red zone opportunity, and I do have this written down, like, Week 17 might get really interesting when it comes to your ability to like chase that tight end at this point, but like a lot of mouths to feed in the Bears offense. So without an injury, I don't know how much I would really want to be chasing that unless I'm just trying to get upside down the line for week 17. It's just not something that I would be looking forward to unless I missed out on all my tight ends. All right. Bengals, they lost to the Bears. We'll get the Joe Burrow situation out of the way first. Supposedly he could have played last week. He didn't. He's supposed to be playing Thursday, and then again they have a really good schedule coming up. Baltimore, Buffalo, Baltimore, and Miami before you get to the Cardinals. Like week 17, like you could get like a lot of league winners out of the Bengals down the line. All right. P Ryan, supposedly he's going to practice this week. It doesn't particularly matter overall if you're the Chase Brown owner, as long as the right usage goes back to Chase Brown. Like they can use P Ryan as the brick wall. You might lose a little bit of gravy. It's going to be red zone opportunities and like receiving work and efficiency. It's already trending in the right direction. Burrow should be back. You still could get the possibility that you're going to get quote unquote like league winner down this line with the stretch, even if Chase Brown's like playing at like 50% snaps, as long as the right opportunities are going to him overall. All right. Jamar Chase back from the suspension. T. Higgins is going to be out with a concussion. Sivash was the guy, so a little bit of the scare that like, or the possibility that like not Sivash is going to be the wide receiver 2 with Chase out, does not mean that you're like these guys are interchangeable at that point just because the depth chart says X. But I imagine like he's going to stay the number 3. So you still get the possibility of like being able to predict some type of spike week over the stretch. T. Higgins is probably only going to miss, I would say, like a game or 2 at this point. And then after that, like, if you're going to be like chasing him, Gesicki was back in this one. He was at 43% snaps. Drew Sample, the blocking tight end, was at 52% snaps. And again, like, at least for the week that T. Higgins is out, you could probably upgrade Mike Gesicki and say like, yeah, I could know that there's a spike week coming. Right there, it says streaming candidate. So like, I ain't the only one that saw that. All right. And then Taj Brooks was knocked out with a concussion at running back. All right, Bills. So remember, the Texans are probably like the best defense in football right now when it comes to the Bills. Wide receivers are probably the main thing to look at. So like Keon Coleman, I guess like was inactive again, and there's a little bit to talk about with them. So first, I got to go to the Saints because the Saints released Brandon Cooks, and then he's went and signed with the Bills at this point. Like, I am not sure that's going to necessarily do anything except for change my opinion on potential like Gabe Davis, 55% snaps. They may end up being like very similar within the offense, but I could see like Gabe Davis playing like the X, and then Brandon Cooks going to end up playing the Z, and then you're going to get like Khalil Shakur in the slot, something like that. I could see something like that occurring, and then like good luck choosing or picking right on anybody outside of like Khalil Shakur being the 40-degree day. Shavers, the guy that like did have that 54% snaps, 5 for 4 for 90 and 1 touchdown in week 11, only at 39% snaps, no opportunities. So like that just didn't magically appear. And then Dalton Kincaid was out with a hamstring, and Dawson Knox with 86% snaps, but it didn't matter. All right, Broncos were on bye, and I I would agree with this statement that was like right there for the Broncos, right? RJ Hardy ready to explode after like I was thinking that already when I was doing the crunching all the numbers. Coming out of the bye, and they can clean up the self scout, clean up all the usage. Like it could definitely end up being league winner. 13-14 are really nice matchups, and then Jacksonville may be dependent on injuries at that point. Green Bay is built a little all over the place. Week 17, Kansas City may not be the greatest, but yeah, I could definitely see really nice usage for RJ Harvey coming out of the bye. Browns, they were able to beat the Raiders, and I did go watch some tape on Shakur, and I'm not particularly interested in him. Like, I'm not saying that he's bad or anything like that. Like, there's other issues going on with the Browns, like their offensive line did not play well. On top of that, did not necessarily think that he is still like pro ready to be a quarterback, and then the Bimbly's not there. Like, I just I don't know in what leagues you're going to be chasing Shaquille Shakur for anything that's going to be going out there. All right, where's that? Judkins, he did score. They were running him with basically like wildcat quarterback in this one, so Shakur was coming out of the game. Those are the 2 touchdowns that went through direct snaps to him. Not entirely sure about like Dylan Sampson. 37% snaps, 7 for 23 in the rushing game, 3 for 259, and 1 touchdown. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to predict that outside of an injury, especially like usage. It probably means that they don't really want the ball to be in Shakur's hands, and Judkins is going to be limited in the passing game. We already know that he's going to be like red zone dependent, touchdown dependent RB2 down the line. Don't have a lot to say about the wide receivers for the Browns. Like, usage was all over the place. I don't know if this is necessarily sleeper. Like 65% snaps for Jerry Jeudy. Bond was at 29% snaps, and then Cedric Tillman was at like 53. Did not necessarily see equal and opposite reaction when it comes to tight ends. Harold Fenton was at 90% snaps in this game, and then Joku was all the way down to 49% snaps. Like, so there you go. If you're gonna be chasing your Fenton, is that's writing on the wall, at least for the time being. If you're like looking at Njoku, if you're gonna be guessing on anything that. All right. Buccaneers were blown out by the Rams, and we talk about like Baker Mayfield. So I guess it's not as bad of a shoulder problem as it originally looked like. You could get Teddy Bridgewater down the line. I don't know if that like it's obviously going to downgrade the toys. I just don't know how much it's going to downgrade toys because like they're just not functioning well on offense at this point overall. Bucky Irving supposedly it says like they will practice, so supposedly he's supposed to be back this week. Probably going to be in a limited role. 60% snaps went to Rashad Wright. In this one, I got to scroll down there. 1 red zone target went to him. 37% snaps went to Sean Tucker in this one, and 1 red zone carry went to him. They're blown out. So, like, they're playing from behind. Like, really early on in this game. Where's he at? Tez Johnson. He was at 86% snaps with Chris Godwin back. Godwin's at 36% snaps. Did see on Twitter that Godwin played mostly in the slot. Kind of might end up hurting your Ibuka shares at this point, because like it would be nice if Ibuka could get moved into the slot and get like manufactured touches, and if Godwin's like not necessarily pulling defenses away, that would bother everything. So what I have written down in my notes for Ted Johnson is 2 red zone opportunities went to him. He tugged on them. You're playing with fire with Ted Johnson, but in a good way at this point, just because you're chasing those red zone opportunities. And again, as long as the offense can get down there and they're giving the red zone opportunities to him over Ibuka, like, yeah, you're going to have like your sub 40-degree day, but like, if you're going to be chasing your red zone opportunities, you're also going to have the opportunity to score touchdowns. So again, like, it's a good way of playing with fire if you're in your deeper leagues, if you're wondering about all that stuff down the line. And I do have written down with Ibuka, at least on paper, regardless of who the quarterback is, Cardinals, Saints, Atlanta, Carolina, and Miami, really good stretch of games. So I'm going to be keeping him in my lineup, even though has had some disappointment down the line. All right, Cardinals overtime loss to the Jaguars, and I'll just start off like with Michael Wilson. I did see this comment on Twitter. What Michael Wilson is doing with Jacoby Brissett is a pretty good indictment of the organization for the Cardinals, between like Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray. And I would tend to agree with that, but this is not a real football channel. The reason why I bring this up is like, as long as Marvin Harrison is out and Kyler Murray is out, and there's no timeline on Marvin Harrison at this point, like, yeah, I can imagine this is going to stay somewhat consistent. 15 for 10 for 118 down the line. So yeah, I probably would not be overthinking that at this point. Running back situation for the Cardinals is Troy Benson is supposed to be back, or Trey Benson is supposed to be back at this point. Supposedly this week it's going to happen. Bam Knight was at 44% snaps, 2 red zone opportunities. Michael Carter was at 56% snaps, 3 red zone opportunities. Bam Knight scored on one of his 2 red zone opportunities. And again, like, the only guy that I would probably be really wanting to roll is if magically you get Trey Benson back in the lineup down the line. All right. Chargers were on bye. And I would just bring this up, like, so Amarian Hampton's practice window was opened out there. What I would say, if Vidal was dropped and you can sneakily pick him up for free and just monitor the injury reports this week, it's not a bad idea. Like, no guarantee you're going to get like Hampton back, and you may get like some type of like ugly full bell cow and a really good matchup against the Raiders. If Vidal somehow was dropped in your leagues. I think he was dropped in my high school league, so like I might have to go take a look at that and follow my own advice. All right, let's see. Chiefs overtime win versus the Colts. So supposedly Isaiah Pacheco is going to be good to go this week. It would not be surprising that like Kareem Hunt, 80 or 71% snaps, 7 red zone opportunities. Like, the red zone opportunities are probably going to stay with him. I wouldn't be surprised. Brashad Smith had 1 red zone opportunity in this game. They did sign Damian Pierce, who was released from the Texans. I don't necessarily think it's going to change anything for the Chiefs in the foreseeable future, like you're probably going to get like, uh, you know, 40-40-20 split between these three running backs. And the only guy I want is Kareem Hunt. If I'm in deep enough leagues, I'm going to be chasing red zone opportunities attached to the Chiefs. All right. Rashee Rice did have 4 more red zone opportunities in this game right here. And I guess like whatever, the hamstring, full practice participation, don't really worry about that on that one. And then Worthy, if you're going to be in deep enough leagues, 77% snaps, 8 targets in this one. Again, like, full practice, with his ankle that's going to be going on out there, right? Colts, and I got to remove the bye that I have written in there. They did lose to the Chiefs in this one. And one of the things that I will talk about with the Colts right here is with the wide receiver room, predictive benches. One of the things we're looking at with the end of your season, if you're going to be chasing points, and your playoffs, predictive benches on some of those guys that you probably didn't spend on, and you can get a little cute on. And we like the Colts are a really good one. You're looking at like, well, who's going to be the guy that's going to be get the opportunities in the offense? I don't know, because they're a good offense and they got a lot of mouths to feed. And then you're also looking at the other thing is saying like, hey, it's a bad matchup. Kansas City does have a pretty good defense at this point. Like, should I get cute and just drop, or shouldn't say drop, not start one of these guys, because I don't know who I would be chasing in this game, and I don't know if there's going to be a lot of opportunities to go around because of the matchup. That would be the idea about the right predictive benches. And again, if you could tell yourself the story and you get the wrong outcome, but like thought process was right, like, again, bad matchup, don't know who's going to get the opportunities in a game that does predict to be lower scoring. That would be the idea behind it. And I didn't pay for that guy, so I'm not going to feel bad if I pick wrong. All right. Redskins right now coming off their bye week will go to Jay Daniels. So went from like, hey, they're going to shut him down IR to probably not going to play this week, is looking like he's going to play next week. If you're wondering about that, running back room right now with, where's he at? C-Rod, if he's available, coming off his 45% snaps. The offense may be slightly better with some of the wide receivers getting healthy and Jay Daniels. And then if he's going to be the guy getting red zone opportunities, and he's going to get a bulk of the carries, now you can start talking about like, some type of like ugly RB2 if he's available. No real news on Scary Terry. Says could return for week 13. No real news, maybe. No, Browns practice window was open, so now you can talk about like maybe you're going to get at least 2 of the 3 starting wide receivers back, if not like the third one overall. That's why I would bring up C-Rod if you're going to be chasing the possibility of getting your red zone opportunities converted into touchdowns. All right. Cowboys, I don't have anything to talk about, even though like, they're winning. Let's see, the comeback win against the Eagles. And the only thing I saw is like George Pickens should be fine with whatever injuries he picked up in the game against the Eagles. Overall, that's about all I got on that one. Dolphins, that don't have anything to talk about with them right now. Oh, I do. Supposedly, like, there's some rumors that like Darren Waller might be back off of IR right now. And again, with Tyreek Hill being out and Jalen Waddle being the number 1 in the offense, yeah, you could talk about like the number 2 in the offense going to him. He's probably going to be the number 3 behind A-Chain, but you know what I mean. If you're in that type of situation, you'll be chasing that type of stuff. Eagles, not a lot to talk about with the Eagles that's like really interesting to me. Barkley, limited with a groin. He did play 83% of the snaps, so like the rest of the running backs didn't really matter in this one. But again, if you're going to be getting cute, probably Bigsby first. If you're looking for that RB2, if you're looking for like the possibility of like full bell count, would be Will Shipley in the passing game. If you think that like Barkley's going to miss, I don't think he's going to miss at this point. And then Devontae Smith, DMP right now, chest shoulder, whatever that means. I probably would not be chasing Johan Dotson at this point, but like, that would be the guy. Like AJ Brown, vacated targets tend to go to running backs. Barkley first, then Goddard. And then, you also have A.J. Brown. So I probably would not be getting cute with the situation for the Eagles. Let's see. Moving on to the Falcons in this one. So, this was like, predictive beatdown that we could talk about, like the Falcons against the Saints. That's how it went. And then overall usage was not surprising. David Stills was, I guess, the guy that stepped in for Drake London right here. Would not be chasing that one. And then, where's he at? Mooney, again, like they just didn't need to do anything in this game. Where's he at? Darnell Mooney. He was at 66% snap, 3 for 3 for 74 and a touchdown. If you're going to be chasing that stuff. And overall, like it's just the matchups. No news on Drake London that I saw right now. If you're gonna be looking at that, famous Jameis, he was not. That's not one. He was quarterback 1 on the week right now. He had like a touchdown catch on top of like the 2 touchdown passes that he threw in this one. And again, like in my main money league, I said, hey, you want to get cute and roll famous Jameis? And my co-manager was like, no, let's just stack Bryce Young. So like that's how it goes sometimes. And if you're wondering, like, I ain't right all the time. What I am is I just I just see all the scenarios and I throw them out to my co-managers and they shoot down a lot of them and I'm not right on a lot of them. That's why I say you get too cute too much. Jackson Dart right now, no real news on whether or not he's going to play this week. We did have a running back usage flop when it comes to the Giants, so I will bring up Devin Singletary. 30% snaps in this game. He only had 1 red zone opportunity. 5 red zone opportunities went to Tyrone Tracy on 71% snaps. Would make me feel better about rolling Tyrone Tracy at least one more week before the bye. If I'm in that position where I have to be rolling your Tyrone Tracy. All right, Wan'Dale Robinson right here. I did see that like he's having a better fantasy football season than Justin Jefferson at this point, especially after going like 14 for 9 for 156 and a touchdown in this one. Isaiah Hodgins, and I don't know, like I probably would not be doing anything with this. 66% snaps, 6 for 2 for 42 in this game. 2 red zone opportunities. He tugged on one of them. I don't think that's going to remain consistent. The other thing is Theo Johnson says like tight end 10. Again, your scoring settings may be different than mine. 5 for 3 for 77 in this game. So it would be really interesting, if he does finish as a top 10 tight end at this point overall. All right, Jaguars. So we'll talk about the running backs first. Travis Etienne in this one, he was at 65% snaps overall. 2 red zone carries, 1 red zone target. He tugged on that one. Tootin was at 21% in the game, and he did have 2 red zone carries. So again, this is back to what the usage was before week 11, and this may be like ankle related for Tootin, so you might get like back to closer to what week 11 was for the Jags, or this may just generally be what the usage overall was. But again, like know who has value in your league. Like Tootin's going to have value regardless of, even if you're wrong on that one down the line. All right, wide receiver. So like Brian Thomas, maybe he will, maybe he won't. Who knows on that one? Parker Washington, 84% snaps, 7 for 5 for 71, and a touchdown. It was red zone opportunity. I think Tim Patrick had 2 red zone opportunities, and then Jacoby Myers right here. 84% snaps, 6 for 450, and a red zone opportunity target or touchdown on top of that. Brenton Strange was back. Go to here. And I got to bring him up real quick. 71% snaps, 5 for 5 for 93 in the game. So what I will say on this one is with Brian Thomas potentially coming back, that would change overall usage of everybody. So like Brenton Strange would be a guy that I would have played this week at tight end. And then he goes back to like, if Brian Thomas is active, not being able to necessarily guess anybody. So you're looking at like Parker Washington being like fringe wide receiver 2 along with Jacoby Myers. And then they would be slightly downgraded at that point. Like Strange would be downgraded. They're probably all streamable. But they probably would not be guys that I would want to be like counting on my lineup. I think like the end of your time of getting like the ability to predict Parker Washington or Brenton Strange or something like that would change with like Brian Thomas coming back into the lineup at that point. And so the only guy I would probably be really interested in rolling would be Etienne, with the expectation that Etienne may end up going back in that timeshare if it was the ankle for Tootin. All right, Jets. So Tyrod Taylor did start, and he did make the toys somewhat better, which is what we were expecting overall in the game. Running back usage remained consistent. I didn't see anything on that one. Adonai Mitchell, and I got to go like 2 different teams to talk about these guys. So like I have in my notes, like maybe if you had to, you could be rolling at like the Jets wide receivers. But remember, this is going to have like extreme volatility if you're going to be going after these guys. And you got to be in situations that you want to be like chasing that extreme volatility when it comes to these. Where is he at? Right there. So Adonai Mitchell, 85% snaps, 7 targets that you're going to be chasing overall. And probably not going to be the highest volume passing offense. They're still going to be more conservative, but you have the opportunity to say like, hey, I can predict that. And then the other one, when it comes to, I think it's the Eagles I got to go to and not the Texans. So Mechie ended up being the number 2 in the offense at 86% snaps, 7 for 6 for 65, a touchdown. Probably would be a little bit more interested in the 40-degree day that I could get out of Mechie versus like the spike week out of Adonai Mitchell. And again, you have to like, you do you when it comes to like, are you going for 40-degree day or are you going for spike week when it comes down to these guys? All right. No big news on Mason Taylor if you're wondering about that. So Lions overtime win against the Giants, and take this in with a grain of salt right here. The Giants did turn around and fire their defensive coordinator after the game. I'll give you your victory lap with Jahmyr Gibbs in this one. 15 carries, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12 targets, 11 receptions, 45 yards, and a touchdown. And like one of them was the game winner. And then where's he at? Brock Wright, and it's not too fantasy relevant stuff. So Isaac Tisla, like I guess hand maybe, if you're chasing all that stuff. No idea who the starting tight end will be for the Lions if Brock Wright is out with a neck at this point. So like yeah, vacated opportunities again tend to go to running backs, Gibbs, and then would be the Sun God after that. Let's see, Packers in this one. So you did get Josh Jacobs being out with that knee. It looks like it's just a bruise. Limited on Tuesday. And then Emmanuel Sanders, Emmanuel Wilson, 56% snaps, 28 for 107, 2 touchdowns, 2 for 2 for 18. Snap share was down, which not entirely surprising. You just remember, like, it's got to be the right usage. Chris Brook comes in, 44% snaps, 8 for 21, 1 for 1 for 5 overall. Let's see. And then not a lot to talk about with the wide receivers. Matthew Golden was out with a wrist, and I guess he is trending towards playing if you want to be chasing that one. Did not see a lot about the wide receivers that I was super interested in. And I'll just say about like your Luke Musgrave at this point, like don't care about the Packers tight ends. So yeah, when you're wrong, you're wrong. Panthers, and like I did go watch some of this because I had like a lot of Panthers and a lot of 49ers in my game. So like you're looking at a combination of like not good play, bad coaching, and bad officiating when it came to this game overall for the Panthers in this one. It did look like from the ticker that this was a split backfield between Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. It was not. 65% snaps for the Panthers. It just was bad coaching. They just didn't give Rico Dowdle the football in this game. And then you're looking at Chuba Hubbard was at 35% snaps, and I believe 1 red zone opportunity went to Chuba Hubbard, 2 red zone opportunities went to Rico Dowdle in this one. And then wide receivers, like a little bit interesting, but I don't think you're going to be able to predict the the offense. Jalen Coker, 83% snaps in this game, and Xavier Leggett, 67% snaps on top of that one. Yeah, let's see. The Patriots are going to be up next, and I'll just start off with Travion Henderson, 65% snaps in this game, 1 red zone opportunity on the ground, 1 red zone target in the game. Now, Ramondre back from the toe, and remember, take this with a grain of salt because he was back from the toe. Like 31% snaps, 6 for 5, 2 for 1 for 5 in the passing game. 3 red zone opportunities went to him, and then I was watching the ticker in this one. So Jennings did come in late because it did just generally look like they got tired. Ramondre not scoring in like the goal line. 4% snaps, 1 carry. He also got stuffed down there also. So like you're probably still looking at Henderson having the limited opportunity to score touchdowns unless they magically make him the goal line back. But then everybody couldn't score touchdowns when it comes to the Patriots. Wide receivers a little bit funny. 48% snaps for Stephon Diggs, 3 for 2 for 20. And Boutte was back at 80% snaps. You also are looking at like Matt Collins doing 86% snaps in this game. 7% snaps went to Kyle Williams, and Pop Douglas was consistent overall in the game. And then Hunter Henry, just talking about like if tight end 5 overall, 10 for 7 for 115 and a touchdown. Like maybe he's the only guy that I would really want to be chasing with any type of predictability, just because he's a tight end and can't break my heart. All right. Raiders, and I did see at one point that like Aiden O'Connell may have ended up being like the starting quarterback this week, and I guess like that may have just been like Twitter nonsense. Emergency number 3 quarterback, whatever that means, going on right now. So it does look like Geno Smith is going to stay the starting quarterback, whatever's going on. I did see that Genty rolled his ankle, but I guess it's not bad. So there's an expectation that he's going to play this week. If you're blocking, it would be Raheem Mostert. I don't know how much I really want to be rolling Raheem Mostert unless I'm like in desperation mode overall with the way the Raiders offense is functioning. Tyler Lockett was all the way up to 76% snaps in the game if you're going to be chasing that stuff. 5 for 4 for 62. And then the other thing with the Raiders that kind of makes this a little bit more interesting is if Michael Mayer, remains out with an ankle injury, you're probably looking at the Raiders are going to be rolling three wide receivers, so you can start to like talk about like, can we predict like the number 3 wide receiver for the Raiders? I don't care. That's the long and short of that one. All right, Rams, and they beat down the Buccaneers, so like there's not a lot to talk about like usage wise with any of these guys. Overall consistency remain remain the same for everybody. The one guy that I would talk about, like Colby Parkinson, 63% snaps, 4 for 4 for 41, 1 touchdown. Remember, yes, the numbers would suggest that regression to the mean will occur, and that like him being able to score a touchdown every week is not something that like I would be betting my money on. However, if the Rams are running a lot of multiple tight end sets and they're just throwing him the football in the red zone, it does not necessarily mean that it has to stop. It just means that like I would generally bet against it when it comes down to it. And then that's with Tyler Higbee lining on the IR. So again, like the reason why like with Colby Parkinson that makes it like less interesting to me is like we know who the number 1 is with Puka. We know who the red zone opportunity guy is going to be with Devontae Adams, and then you're looking at like the enough left over not going to Kyren Williams or Blake Corum, and it would be Colby Parkinson. So it's like it's a long shot overall that you're going to be able to predict that. But like, yeah, I could see it somewhat remaining consistent just because of the multiple tight end sets that they're running. All right. Ravens, very little to talk about. The only thing to talk about with them is that Bateman was out again, and they won, so who cares? Let's see. The Saints, a lot to talk about with them right now. So first and foremost, you're looking at Alvin Kamara being out with an MCL, so I would at least expect him to miss like 1 week, if not like 3, something along those lines. And then with him being out, Devin Neal, he comes into 74% snaps, 7 for 18 in the rushing game, 7 for 5 for 43. That's a little bit more interesting to me, is that you're going to get like the right usage, receiving work, and potential goal line opportunities. I just don't know how much like goal line you're going to get out of them. And then there's the possibility that like Taysom Hill is going to end up being a goal line guy. But like, if you're in that type of situation where you have to be chasing some type of RB2 this late in the season, you don't know if you're going to get another opportunity to go after a guy like that, even if it's not the best situation overall when it comes to these guys. All right. And then Vele for the tight ends or the wide receivers, he did operate as a number 2 at 89% snaps behind Olave. Jawan Johnson, he was the guy, 78% snaps, 7 targets, like coming out of the bye. Like that was a little bit expected. That's not something that changed at all. All right. Seahawks. Sorry, I would like running backs real quick. So Holamani, he does go down and does say like a candidate for injury reserve with a hamstring in the game. He was cutting it a little bit into the back running back usage overall. So Kenneth Walker, 63% snaps, 3 red zone opportunities on the ground, 1 red zone target. Charbonnet had 31% snaps, 2 red zone opportunities. He tugged on one of them. So like still generally trending towards Kenneth Walker, even though like you have one theoretical less mouth to feed when it comes to Holamani going out, and then Charbonnet, he was the guy who tugged this week overall. And then I did see with Jackson Smith, they're jigging about this. This is on pace for a legendary outcome season right now when it comes to him being a league winner. Horton was put on IR with a shin at this point. That's what it says right there as I was clicking through and looking at some stuff. I don't know. Shahid's usage was like still like in the 50s when it comes to snap share, so I'm not really super overly interested in that overall. Steelers, so you're looking at late loss to right here. Talk about Aaron Rodgers. Late loss to the Bears in this one. Didn't even write that down. Aaron Rodgers, so I guess like it was a game time decision. He didn't play. It says right there like he's supposed to play this week right now. If you're wondering about that, I don't think it necessarily changes the Steelers overall from an offensive standpoint. Running back usage, 50% snaps went to Jalen Warren in this one. 3 red zone opportunities. He tugged on one of them. Kenny Gainwell was at 51% snaps, 10 for 92, 6 for 6 for 30 in this game. He had 2 red zone opportunities and 1 red zone target also to go along with that. And I wonder if I cleared this out, and I did not. So I can erase that. So no usage for Caleb Johnson. DK right now, he is dealing with an ankle. Whatever that means, if it means he's going to play this week or not. Was expecting that you're going to get the continued uptick for Roman Wilson. It went down 28% snaps. So like, yeah, not going to care much about the Steelers down the line. If there's vacant opportunities when it comes to the Steelers. If you're wondering if there's vacated opportunities and they need to pass, it would probably be Pat Freiermuth. You got to be like really, really cute to want to be chasing that against the Bills at this point. All right, Texans. So no news right now on CJ Stroud, and they did win another game without him. Woody Marks, general usage overall for the running backs remain consistent, so there's not a lot to talk about. If you're rolling anybody, it's Woody Marks, but that's how it's gonna go. Hopefully, you guys can hear that train. Texans defense is elite, so I probably would be rolling them right now through all the bad matchups because they went out there and just like destroyed the Bills, and that would have been a predicted bench. So like even the Colts, they have not looked as good. The Chiefs have not looked as good as they were going to be, and then you have like some really good matchups down the line. Arizona, Las Vegas, and then even the Chargers. Again, the Chargers have been all dinged up, so I probably would just be set and forget Houston if you could get a hold of them at this point, if they're available. Some wide receiver stuff to be talking about. Let's see. We'll talk about Xavier Hutchinson was down to 36% snaps, and then Jaden Higgins was up to 58% snaps, 9 for 4 for 38 and a touchdown. That would probably put him firmly in wide receiver 3 range on a week-to-week basis if we got to be rolling a guy out there. And at this point, like, can they get to the point where, like, is he going to be the beneficiary of coverage being pulled away from Nico, or if Nico going to be the better beneficiary because they can pull coverage away, or if he's just going to get all the stuff because they're going to be able to take Nico away. So that's why I put him firmly in the wide receiver 3 range. And then the other thing with Christian Kirk, he was only at 32% snaps in the game, but he did have 6 for 554 and a red zone touchdown at this point. Probably Higgins as a wide receiver 3. I don't know if I would trust Kirk and that snap share overall. And they're probably the possibility for a lot of reasons of just the general direction that the season has been going for Nico. Overall, Dalton Schultz remained consistent at 81% snaps. Was expecting that we were going to get a little bit of Cade Stover eating into him. He was only up to 34% snaps in this game. All right. And I will bring this one up real quick to talk about Cam Ward finishing as quarterback 4 on the week. Like fantasy football is a very cruel mistress at this point. Right here with Cam Ward, and he did score a rushing touchdown on top of that, like 28 for 42, 256, and a touchdown. Running back usage remained the same. A.O. Marnor was out right now with a hamstring. Van Jefferson rolled at 91% snaps in this game, and then Deke or whatever, 80% snaps, 7 for 5 for 44, a touchdown. A little bit interested. Would put him in wide receiver 3 range. The other thing is, from a tight end perspective, I don't know if I would necessarily trust this. It does look like they're kind of rolling with like 2 tight ends a lot because of the wide receiver situation. 63% snaps for Chig, and you also had 63% snaps for Gunnar Helm. 7 for 6 for 51 overall. Like would generally say like you could say that you're gonna get a spike week out of Gunnar Helm. You could also get like a regression on snap share and targets down the line, but I can see it going either way if you're in deep enough leagues that you're gonna be like chasing something like that overall. And that DK or Dick or Dyke or whatever, I would probably be chasing him. But again, you got to be in like deepest, darkest leagues to really care about any of that stuff. And then finally, to finish this off, when it comes to the Vikings, not a lot to talk about with them. Aaron Jones was at 66% snaps. Jordan Mason did have the red zone opportunity on his limited snaps. And after that, like, you're probably not going to care overall about anything going on with the Vikings because of the quarterback play right now. It says JJ McCarthy is in the concussion protocol, and that's going to like probably downgrade them further as you try and figure out like who the starting quarterback would be for the Vikings this week. So anyway, that's about what I got for after waivers, and yeah,